Chapter 11. You are listening at novelfold.audio. The Gaze from Danzo. Uchiha Itachi. Soon after Qianye, Yuhi Kurenai, and Uzuki Yugao returned, the things they experienced on the way to complete the mission were spread out, especially the battle between Qianye and Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen. Almost everyone exclaimed that it was incredible. After all, in people's impression, Qianye is not weak, but definitely not so strong. Killing Kuroki Raiga head-on is really incredible. Among the younger generation of Konoha, in addition to Uchiha Itachi and Hitaki Kakashi, there is such a freak-level figure. This incident made the name Uchiha Qianye quickly become the focus of attention in Konoha village in a short period of time. It caused widespread discussion among people. Among them, there are 2 obvious factions. One faction became Qianye supporters and was happy that Konoha had another powerful figure like Qianye. It is worth mentioning that because Qianye has a handsome face and a mysterious and low-key style of doing things, this part of people is mainly of the opposite sex. The other faction questioned this matter. It is not questioning whether Qianye really defeated Kuroki Raiga face to face. This matter was witnessed by Yuhi Kurenai and Uzuki Yugao, so it cannot be false. What makes them doubt is the strength of Kuroki Raiga, which is not as strong as rumored. Since Qianye can defeat Kuroki Raiga, they may not be unable to do it. The most important thing is that there is no such opportunity, and this faction is mainly led by Asuma and a ninja named Hayate. Both sides stick to their own opinions and neither can convince the other. On the contrary, Qianye was unaware of the center of the vortex of this matter. After completing the task, he went to report the situation to Fugaku, the patriarch of the Uchiha family. After that, he got 2 days of vacation as usual. Qianye certainly would not miss such time. Before the simulation system cooled down, he had been practicing ninjutsu and taijutsu to further improve himself. He had no idea what was happening in the outside world. It was not important to him at all, and he didn't want to care at all. However, his indifference did not mean that others did not care. At this time, inside the root organization of Konoha, Danzo was asking about the details of this matter. Did Uchiha Qianye really kill Kuroki Raiga of the 7 ninja swordsmen? Danzo looked at the boy in front of him and asked in a deep voice. His head was wrapped in circles of white bandages, and even his left eye was covered. The only remaining eye was full of ferocity and resentment. In front of him was a boy about 13 years old. He had a handsome face and delicate features. His long black hair was tied up casually. There were 2 obvious tear grooves on his fair face. Uchiha Itachi. Yes, Kuroki Raiga was indeed killed. Uchiha Itachi said very calmly. He didn't speak fast, nor did he have any emotion or tone, but he gave people a very trustworthy feeling. Oh. Danzo narrowed his only remaining eye. With his knowledge, he was very clear about what level of ninja Kuroki Raiga was. There was still a big gap between him and the Kage level, but compared with ordinary elite Jonin, he was still much stronger. But he was killed by a mere ordinary Jonin. This already shows the extraordinariness of this ordinary Jonin. If he was from another family, he would definitely want to recruit him. He could achieve this at the age of 15 or 16, with this kind of talent. Even if he is not as good as Uchiha Itachi and the genius Hitaki Kakashi in front of him, he is not far behind. It's just a pity that he is from the Uchiha family. Itachi, what do you think of Uchiha Qianye? Danzo looked at Uchiha Itachi and asked. I don't have much interaction with Uchiha Qianye, so my understanding of him is very limited. All we know is that when Qianye was studying ninja, he was once a genius who was as famous as Senior Kakashi, but later on, for some reason, he gradually fell silent. In addition, Qianye has always been a loner, rarely hanging out with them, and has almost no friends. Based on his memory, Uchiha Itachi roughly told his understanding of Qianye. He didn't say that even though Qianye later became silent, both his father Uchiha Fugaku and his good friend Uchiha Shisui had a very high opinion of Qianye. For this reason, he also paid special attention to it. Sure enough, he found Qianye's unusualness. Putting aside his talent and strength, his mind, scheming, and ability to do things far exceeded ordinary ninjas. It's just a pity that as a ninja, his own strength is the most important. What Danzo knew was roughly the same as what Itachi said. When Qianye was in the ninja school, he was indeed a genius on par with Kakashi. However, all this was not because of talent. It was because Qianye was a time traveler. At that time, he looked like although he looks like a child, he is actually an adult mentally. In addition, he has long known that there will be a night of genocide, so from the beginning, he was much more serious and diligent in learning ninjutsu than others. That's why he was once as famous as geniuses like Itachi Kakashi, but in fact, it was not because of his talent at all, but because of his hard work. Therefore, as he got older, the difference in talent became more and more obvious. Itachi Kakashi soared to the sky and continued to maintain the title of genius, but Qianye slowly became mediocre. He was no longer the genius that others talked about, but all this, except Qianye who had actually experienced it, no one else knew about it. Now that it fell into Danzo's ears, it aroused his endless reverie. He was a genius who was as famous as Itachi Kakashi at the time, but he gradually became silent as he grew older. Could it be that he was so precocious that he knew how to hide his true strength at such a young age? It was not until he met such a strong opponent like Kuroko Raiga this time that he had to show it. If this is true, Uchiha Qianye is young and energetic, with strength that surpasses the elite jonin, but he can keep it to himself and remain unknown. Interesting. It's getting more and more interesting. Danzo narrowed his eyes and looked at Uchiha Itachi. Itachi, how does this Uchiha Qianye compare to you? When that day comes, are you sure you can kill him? Yes. Uchiha Itachi said without hesitation. His voice was not loud, but it was unusually confident and firm. Very good. Danzo smiled, but this smile on Danzo's face did not give people a gentle and amiable feeling. Instead, it was cold and cruel. He walked to Uchiha Itachi, patted Itachi on the shoulder and said, remember, you can only choose one between Uchiha and Konoha. Either follow your family, join the rebellion, become the enemy of Konoha, and then be killed together, or, stand on our side of Konoha and help us wipe out the Uchiha clan before the Uchiha rebels, and save your brother's life. You have made your choice before, so please don't let me down. Uchiha Itachi's face showed a trace of pain and complexity. He didn't say anything more and turned away. 3-day summer promotion, top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Top up now, activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The second simulation. Masked Man. On the other side, in a dark corner, the masked man was talking to a white figure about almost the same thing. Qianye is really a powerful guy. I saw with my own eyes that Kuroko Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, had almost no power to resist him. Uchiha is really a place full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. He. Although he said so, the white figure looked relaxed and didn't care at all. The masked man put one hand behind his back and looked into the distance. Because of the mask, his expression could not be seen, but from other performances, it was obvious that he didn't take it seriously at all. Kuroko Raiga. In the eyes of others, he is a powerful figure, but in his eyes, he is nothing. However, out of caution, in order to avoid any mistakes in the subsequent plans, he still investigated Qianye in detail. A senior ninja who opened the 3 Magatama Sharingan. It's just 3 Magatama. No matter how outstanding his physical skills and adaptability are, he will not take it seriously at all. Have you confirmed what you are sending to the kingdom of? After a slight pause, the masked man said in a low, vicissitudes of life voice, it is confirmed. It is just some gold, silver, and jewels, nothing else. The white figure replied, yes. The masked man nodded. He was overthinking. He thought the Uchiha family had discovered something and wanted to seek help, or had other plans. That's why he ordered the Mist Shadow, who had been controlled by him, to send Kuroko Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, to intercept. It turned out to be just an ordinary mission. Step up surveillance. The day is getting closer and closer, and no mistakes can be made before then. The masked man warned, don't worry. The white figure nodded, paused for a moment, and then said, Uchiha Qianye is really a little different. I feel like he has discovered me. Huh? A hint of surprise flashed across the masked man's eyes and he repeated, found you? I'm not really sure, it's just a feeling, said the white figure. Well, I will make other arrangements. After a slight moment of surprise, the masked man regained his previous calm tone, saying that everything was under control. Yes. The white figure began to slowly sink, and at the same time, dozens of thin and long leaves rose up, wrapped around the head, and slowly sank into the ground until it completely disappeared. Fire style, great fireball technique. Fire style phoenix fire technique. Fire style, great flame ball. Under the morning sun, in a large deserted open space, Uchiha Qianye was practicing his ninjutsu over and over again. Sweat wet his hair and soaked his clothes, but he was not affected at all. His eyes were serious and focused. When the sun slowly rose and climbed higher and higher, Qianye stopped and turned to walk home. It was only a short while before 2 days from the last simulation. The cooling of the simulation system of the Uchiha clan extermination night was about to end, and he could start a new simulation immediately. In the simulation, not only can new abilities be refreshed and solidified, but also to enhance their own strength in the fight of life and death. Compared with his boring practice of ninjutsu in real life, it is more than several times stronger. The improvement of strength is not at the same level at all. This opportunity cannot be wasted. It happened that because a mission had just been completed, according to convention, he could rest for 2 days, that is to say, he had a full day to simulate. After returning home, Qianye took a casual shower and changed into a clean and refreshing outfit. The time was just right, 12:00. The Uchiha clan extermination night simulation system has finished cooling down. The Uchiha clan extermination night simulation system is starting up. The Uchiha clan extermination night simulation system has been activated. A few lines of transparent words suddenly appeared in the void. System, start simulation. Qianye said without any delay. The Uchiha clan extermination night simulation begins. Current solidified ability, Otsutsuki physique, golden ability, possesses super strong self-healing ability, comparable to immortality when in the extreme state, and can also absorb ninjutsu, and can possess almost infinite chakra. Therefore, it is also called the immortal body. Currently selectable abilities, Taijutsu plus 100, lightning release mastery, chakra plus 1000, shuriken mastery. There are 10 abilities in total. Qianye can choose 3 from them, in addition to the previously solidified ability, Otsutsuki physique. This time he will simulate with 4 abilities, but this luck is a little worse. Most of the 10 abilities are blue abilities and a few white abilities. There is not even a purple ability. However, Qianye was not too disappointed. He started like this last time. In the end, didn't he get the gold ability? No matter what the situation is, don't be anxious, analyze and make decisions with a calm mind and careful thinking. Make the most correct choice at the moment, instead of complaining about your bad luck. Doing so, in addition to wasting time, is of no use at all. In the last simulation, Qianye had just obtained the Otsutsuki physique, and the simulation time was up. He didn't have time to carry out a simulation with the Otsutsuki physique. Now after 2 days of training and fighting with Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, he truly felt the power of the Otsutsuki physique. I have long wanted to simulate and see how many ninjas of the root organization I can kill this time. Now it is finally time, but there is nothing worth worrying about or choosing among the abilities that can be selected, so, he randomly picked a few to make up the number and hurriedly entered the simulation. In an instant, the environment in front of him changed. It was a dark and silent night that was a little scary. Only the whistling wind was particularly obvious. It was exactly the same as the previous simulation. Qianye didn't hesitate at all and was about to open the window and jump out. His destination was the same as before, the root organization ninjas hidden outside the exit of the Uchiha settlement. He was very curious about how long he could last and how many root organization ninjas he could kill with the bonus of the golden ability Otsutsuki Constitution. In addition, how big is the gap between him, who has already greatly increased in strength, and the real Kage-level strongman Uchiha Itachi. And the masked man Uchiha Obito disguised as Uchiha Madara. However, things always have to be done step by step, and there is a sequence. It is simple and difficult. This was Qianye's choice. However, just when he was about to open the window and jump out, he suddenly froze and stopped the action he was about to take. Looking out through the window, there was a person standing outside his window, the masked man. 3-day summer promotion, top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Top up now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 13. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Qianye, you are not going to set a dead end for me, are you? Wearing the unique clothing of the Uchiha clan, with a samurai sword on his back, his long black hair was tied up casually, he wore the same mask as the Umbu of Konoha on his face, Uchiha Itachi. Although he was wearing a mask and his face could not be seen clearly, but Qianye still guessed the identity of the person below at the first time. After all, there were only two people who participated in the Uchiha clan extermination night. One was Uchiha Obito, a masked man disguised as Uchiha Madara, the other was Uchiha Itachi. And the masked man would not wear the mask of the Umbu. The identity of the person in front of him was about to be revealed, Uchiha Itachi. A shadow-level strongman who opened the Mangekyo Sharingan. Before this, Qianye had also wanted to try how far he was from a real shadow-level strongman with the physique of Otsutsuki, but he always wanted to take the initiative to attack, instead of just opening the window and encountering him by chance. This was too sudden, however, since he met him, Qianye was not afraid at all. Anyway, there will be a battle sooner or later, the sooner the sooner. It's not a bad idea to feel Uchiha Itachi's greatness in advance, however, just when Qianye was about to fight to the death, the scene in front of him turned blood red in an instant. Even the moon hanging in the night sky was the same. Uchiha Itachi, who was just below and a distance away from him, stood in front of him with a samurai sword in his hand, his eyes cold and indifferent. Qianye was tied to a huge cross, unable to move. Tsukuyomi. Only the Mangekyo Sharingan can start to cast a mental illusion. It will pull the caster into the illusion space. In this space, Uchiha Itachi is like a god who controls all time, environment, and state, just like Qianye's current situation. Being pulled into the world of Tsukuyomi, even if you have the physique of Otsutsuki, you have no power to resist and cannot break free. As a traverser, Qianye knows very well that Tsukuyomi is much more powerful than this. If this is just an ordinary illusion, he can also break it by forcibly interrupting or disrupting the flow of chakra in his body. But this is Tsukuyomi. After being pulled into the space of Tsukuyomi, time in the conventional sense has no meaning. It is very likely that only a few seconds have passed in the outside world, and the person being cast has been tortured in the Tsukuyomi world for several days and nights. All the pain and torture during this will be fed back to the senses along with the consciousness. Let the body and consciousness collapse in an instant. It really deserves to be called one of the strongest offensive illusions of Naruto. Faced with such a powerful illusion, perhaps someone can solve it. But Qianye now obviously does not have such ability. Isn't it ridiculous to use the 3 Magatama Sharingan to crack the ninjutsu of the Mangekyo Sharingan? In front of Qianye, in a sea of blood, Uchiha Itachi walked towards him step by step with a samurai sword in his hand. Itachi did not walk fast, but every few steps, more Itachis would differentiate, the same attire, the same samurai sword, the same cold and indifferent eyes. When he walked in front of Qianye, there were already dozens of Uchiha Itachis holding samurai swords around him, and then stabbed down together. This simulation failed. As such a line of transparent text appeared in the void, Qianye exited the simulation. He frowned slightly, as if he was still a little scared. Tsukuyomi, Uchiha Itachi, are too powerful. Even the real Kage level may not work in front of him, not to mention that he is still a little far from the real Kage level. It is a direct crushing of hard power, and there is no power to resist. Fortunately, Uchiha Itachi was eager to exterminate the clan at that time, and he cut the Gordian knot and ended it all directly. Otherwise, if he really suffered in it, he would probably be useless. Although it is a simulation, even if he suffers fatal damage in the simulation, it will not have any effect in real life. However, the trauma left in the mind is inevitable. It will end with this simulation and be brought back to people's consciousness, just like Qianye now. Even now he can still clearly feel how painful everything he experienced in the Tsukuyomi world is. Qianye exhaled a long breath to calm his mind. The simulation time is limited, the day of the genocide is getting closer and closer. He has no time to rest now. He must use all the time and means to make himself stronger. Even if he has just suffered unspeakable pain, it is the same. System, start simulation. Qianye said in a deep voice, because the last talents were all ordinary blue and white talents, there was no need to choose. However, solidifying one would take up a position for refreshing ability, which was not worth it, so Qianye chose to simulate directly to facilitate faster ability refresh. The Uchiha clan extermination night simulation begins. Current solidified ability, Otsutsuki physique, golden ability, possesses super strong self-healing ability, comparable to immortality when in the extreme state. and can also absorb ninjutsu, and can possess almost infinite chakra. Therefore, it is also called the immortal body. Currently selectable ability, physical skills plus 100, there was not much difference from before, and the 10 blue and white abilities were ordinary and not worth mentioning at all. Qianye took a quick look, randomly selected a few, and confirmed that they were correct. Following the system's reminder, he entered the simulation space, a familiar room, a dark night sky. A whirring evening breeze. As soon as Qianye appeared, he opened the window without any hesitation and jumped out. He was extremely fast and agile, like a cheetah. He stopped after taking only 2 steps. A figure suddenly appeared in front of him, silently, without any sign. Even Qianye, who possessed the 3 Magatama Sharingan, had no sense of it before. Surprised, he subconsciously looked forward. He was wearing the unique clothing of the Uchiha clan, with a samurai sword on his back. His long black hair was casually tied up, on his face was a mask similar to that of the Konoha Umbu, Uchiha Itachi. He crossed his arms across his chest, and his eyes suddenly glowed red. Within the red light, the 3 Magatama were connected to each other, forming a blade-like shape, Mangekyo Sharingan. The next second, Qianye's surroundings changed drastically, a red world, a red waning moon. He was tied to a cross. Uchiha Itachi was walking towards him step by step with a samurai sword in his hand, his eyes cold and indifferent. This simulation failed. Damn Uchiha Itachi, do you have a grudge? It's fine once, but a second time? That's enough. Even with Qianye's calm mind, he couldn't help it. However, he also found something unusual. Chapter 14. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The second Golden Legend. Would release. In the simulation 2 days ago, Qianye followed the route he had planned. He had chosen and planned that route, which was very concealed. There were no accidents in the simulations for 20 or 30 times, but in today's simulation, he encountered Uchiha Itachi twice in a row. If it was just once, it might be a coincidence, but 2 times in a row, it was still a coincidence. Isn't it a bit far-fetched? Something is strange. Qianye began to think carefully about the 2 times he saw Uchiha Itachi. The first time, he opened the window directly. He happened to see Uchiha Itachi standing outside the window looking at him, and he was hit by the Tsukuyomi. The second time, he had just gone out for a while. Cosmic Wave Itachi appeared in front of him again. When he was surprised, he subconsciously looked forward and was hit by the Tsukuyomi. Although the situations he encountered twice were different, he unconsciously looked directly into Uchiha Itachi's eyes and was hit by the Tsukuyomi. Otherwise, if he really knew that the other party was Uchiha Itachi, he would have been prepared in his heart. Even if he was defeated in the end, he would not have been hit all of a sudden and lost his resistance. Qianye frowned slightly. He felt that he was close to the answer to this question. This was not bad luck at all, but a premeditated encounter. Uchiha Itachi was waiting for him. But, why would Uchiha Itachi be waiting for me there? I should have no intersection with him. Qianye half squinted his eyes, looking thoughtful. As early as when he came to this world, he knew that there would be a day of genocide night, so he had been thinking about how to strengthen his strength so that he could survive the genocide night. Moreover, after he traveled through time, he became a newborn child. However, his memories and way of thinking from his previous life did not disappear, but were brought along. This means that although he looks small, he is actually an adult. How could he make friends with those little kids? Therefore, he has been a loner all the time and has almost no friends of his own. He would not have any intersection with Uchiha Itachi, but why would Uchiha Itachi come to kill him on the night of genocide? Could it be? Could it be? Suddenly, Qianye's eyes flashed, and he had a vague guess in his heart, the difference between this simulation and the last one during the 2-day cooling-off period in between. During the cooling-off period, he killed Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, in order to complete the mission, which caused many people to exclaim in disbelief. After all, Qianye was not so strong in the eyes of many people before. Maybe it was because of this incident that it attracted the attention of Uchiha Itachi, and in order to prevent any mistakes, the results of these 2 simulations were obtained. The more Qianye thought about it, the more he felt that this assumption was reliable. Only this reason can explain the situation he is facing now. At the same time, it is also in line with common sense. All things should change with the times, not remain unchanged. Such simulations are real enough. It's just, every time the simulation encounters an opponent like Uchiha Itachi, which means that every time you have to face the ninjutsu cast by the Mangekyo Sharingan like Tsukuyomi. Qianye looked up and looked at the clock hanging on the wall. 12:01. It has been done twice, but only 1 minute has passed. It seems that meeting Uchiha Itachi is not without benefits. I don't know if I can become stronger in battle by simulating like this. The novel was taken from the Rala's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. But at least the number of times I refresh my ability will increase, so I have a greater chance of refreshing the golden ability, which may change the situation of the duel with Uchiha Itachi. System, start simulation. In the following simulations, Qianye encountered Uchiha Itachi every time and fought with him. The result was not much different. At first, he was unprepared and was directly pulled into the world of Tsukuyomi, and the simulation failed. Later, he was prepared, resisted stubbornly, and then was pulled into the world of Tsukuyomi, and the simulation failed. The process is a little different, but the results are not much different. However, after fighting with Uchiha Itachi so many times, even if the gap between the two sides is a bit big, it is a real life and death fight. Qianye can clearly feel the improvement of his Otsutsuki physique, and even the pupil power of the Sharingan has improved by leaps and bounds. This makes Qianye feel a little more comforted. After so many simulations, although I haven't been able to brush up any really useful abilities, but at least it's not a complete waste of time. And there are still some gains. The clock on the wall is ticking. 8:24. Unknowingly, it has darkened. This simulation has also passed a third. Time is running out. After sorting out his mood a little, Qianye started a new round of simulations. System, start simulation. The Uchiha Clan Extermination Night Simulation begins. Current solidification ability, Otsutsuki physique, golden ability. Current optional abilities, illusion plus 100, blue, shurikenjutsu mastery, white, taijutsu master, blue. Would release, gold. As the abilities unfolded one by one, a golden ability suddenly caught Qianye's attention. Would release, golden ability. The original secret technique of the first Hokage Senju Hashirama, a kind of bloodline limit, synthesized by water and earth chakras, is a ninjutsu that the caster uses his own chakra as the source of life. The second golden ability would release. Qianye is overjoyed. The system's introduction to it is very simple, not enough to show its strength. You know, this is the bloodline limit of the god of ninja, Senju Hashirama. It can carry, fight, and drive a Gundam. It is so strong that it can suppress the tailed beasts, and even have the upper hand when facing the legendary Uchiha Madara's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Qianye's face showed a hint of obvious joy. Being able to obtain would release is undoubtedly a huge improvement in his combat power, but this does not mean that would release can completely elevate him to the level of god of ninja, Senju Hashirama. This is simply impossible. After the first Hokage Senju Hashirama, Yamato also possessed would release, but what about his strength? Not to mention being compared with the god of ninja, Senju Hashirama, there is still a big gap even compared with the real Kage-level strongmen. It can be seen that although would release is powerful and can greatly enhance the strength of the caster, in comparison, it is more of a way to raise the caster's upper limit. In other words, the stronger the caster, the stronger the would release. Senju Hashirama is the god of ninja, and would release in his hands can destroy everything in a second. But in Yamato's hands, it can only do landscaping. Now, Qianye also has would release. I wonder how powerful it can be. 3-day summer promotion. Recharge 100 to get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Itachi, I have a big advantage this time. Otsutsuki physique, golden ability. Otsutsuki physique, golden ability has super strong self-healing ability, comparable to immortality when in the extreme state, and can also absorb ninjutsu, and the chakra that can be possessed is almost infinite. That would release, golden ability, a unique secret technique created by the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. It is a kind of bloodline limit, which is composed of water and earth chakras. It is a ninjutsu that the caster uses his own chakra as the source of life. Illusion plus 100, Blue ability. The ability to cast illusions is significantly enhanced. Physical skills master. Blue ability. The power of physical skills will be greatly enhanced when performing physical skills. After selecting the golden ability would release and 2 blue abilities, Qianye entered the simulation again. A familiar room, a dark night sky, a whistling evening breeze. Everything is exactly the same as before. What is different is his own state, which is stronger. And the enhancement is outrageous. If Qianye was above the elite ninja before, but there was still a gap from the real Kage level, then Qianye now has officially entered the Kage level with the blessing of wood release. Qianye opened his palm, and a small sapling emerged from his palm and grew at an extremely amazing speed. In just a few seconds, it has grown into a small tree full of vitality. Wood release, interesting. He half squinted his eyes, with a bit of excitement in his eyes, when fighting with Uchiha Itachi before, because of the huge gap between the strengths of the two sides, and the other party also had the bloodline boundary of the Mangekyo Sharingan. There was always no suspense in the battle between the two, but now, Uchiha Itachi has the Mangekyo Sharingan, and Qianye also has the wood release. It's still unknown who will win. Qianye turned off the lights, jumped and hid on the roof of the house, waiting for Uchiha Itachi to arrive. Quiet. So quiet that Qianye could clearly hear his own heartbeat. Not long after, there was a creak, and the door opened. Through the pale moonlight, a long figure was reflected on the ground. Uchiha Itachi. He walked in slowly, step by step. The blood-red Sharingan looked more charming and creepy in the surrounding darkness. Whoosh. Just when Itachi just stepped into the room, Qianye made a move. Under the cover of the night, 3 kunai shot at Uchiha Itachi with a fierce murderous intent. However, at the moment when the kunai was about to hit him, Itachi's body gradually became ethereal and turned into crows and dispersed. Clone. Bang, bang, bang. The 3 kunai were all sunk into the floor. Qianye was not surprised by this. Uchiha Itachi, who is known for his genius, is not someone who can be dealt with so easily. Qianye came to the ground in an instant, just in time to see the blood-red flashing of the Mangekyo Sharingan under Uchiha Itachi's weird mask. To break Itachi's Tsukuyomi technique, you need to have a stronger eye power than Itachi. This is something Qianye does not have now. Are you kidding me? To compare the eye power of the 3 Magatama Sharingan with the Mangekyo Sharingan? They are not at the same level at all. In addition, there are 2 points to note if you want to resist Itachi's Tsukuyomi. The first is the distance. Although Tsukuyomi is powerful, the distance requirement is also very strict. 5 meters. To cast Tsukuyomi, you must be within 5 meters. The second is that you must see the Mangekyo Sharingan directly or indirectly. Now, although Qianye is looking directly at Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan, the distance between the two is 5 meters away. So Qianye dares to look directly at Uchiha Itachi so boldly. Danzo is right, you are not simple. Uchiha Itachi looked at Qianye and said in a flat tone. Qianye sneered and mocked. When did the Uchiha family become Danzo's dogs? As a member of the Uchiha family, he turned to Konoha and killed his own people. No matter what noble reasons he had, this is a stain that Uchiha Itachi will never wash away in his life. It seems that his emotions fluctuated slightly, and the red light in Itachi's eyes became brighter, but it didn't take long for it to become as calm as before. It's not for Danzo, it's for Konoha, it's to avoid war. Never mind, it doesn't matter, you're going to die anyway. Qianye narrowed his eyes and asked provocatively, are you so confident? If it was before, he was not sure, but now, with wood release, his own strength has risen to the level of Kage, coupled with the blessing of the Otsutsuki physique, he is now incomparable with the previous simulations. Uchiha Itachi didn't say anything more about this, but as one of the most talented ninjas in the Uchiha clan, and even in the entire Konoha, he has awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. He is absolutely confident. Especially after seeing that Qianye's Sharingan is just an ordinary 3 Magatama, he is even more convinced of this. The gap between the 3 Magatama Sharingan and the Mangekyo Sharingan is huge, it is so big that it can hardly be made up with other things. To the point of being filled, without possessing the real Mangekyo Sharingan, you would never know how powerful this power is, let alone other things. Just to say, in the hundreds of years of history of the Uchiha clan, there are quite a few who can open the 3 Magatama Sharingan, but there are only a handful of people who can open the Mangekyo Sharingan, and these few people are all well-known strong men. The power of the Mangekyo Sharingan can be seen. It is precisely because of this that Itachi has absolute confidence when facing Qianye or anyone else. This is confidence in his own strength, and confidence in the Mangekyo Sharingan. In the darkness, only two pairs of Sharingan with a blood-red glow can be seen. There was a vague confrontation, swish. In an instant, Qianye moved. With the blessing of the Otsutsuki physique, he disappeared from the spot in an instant. How fast was this speed? Even Uchiha Itachi, who had already opened the Mangekyo Sharingan, felt dizzy and could not see Qianye's figure clearly. Uchiha Itachi frowned slightly. Before this, he had heard about the battle between Qianye and Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Hidden Mist village, and he had conducted a very careful and clear investigation. This has always been his habit. Even if he has absolute confidence in himself, he will never underestimate his opponent because of this, especially. For such a major event as the Night of Extermination, there is no room for any mistakes. How could he not do it? To be absolutely sure, Uchiha Chiya, 3 Magatama Sharingan, strength is above elite Jonin, below Kage level, very good at physical skills, and the ability to withstand ninjutsu attacks. At the same time, he has very good achievements in ninjutsu, shuriken, and kunai. This is the information he got before, but even though he was mentally prepared, he was still surprised to see Chiya's amazing speed. Because it was too fast, Uchiha Chiya, no wonder both Danzo and that person asked me to come here in person. 3-day summer promotion, recharge 100 to get 500 VIP points. Recharge now, activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 16. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Do you know that you have fallen into the illusion? Swish, swish, swish. Itachi Uchiha threw countless kunai and shurikens as if they were free. In the silent night, the sound of breaking through the air could be heard, hundreds of kunai and shurikens woven together into a huge net full of murderous intent, shooting towards Qianye, fire style, great fireball technique. Qianye formed seals with both hands and performed ninjutsu. His current strength has reached the level of Kage. The physique of the Otsutsuki has also improved by leaps and bounds. Whether it is physical skills, resistance to blows, recovery, or chakra, there has been a very obvious improvement. Compared with the time when he was an elite Jonin, he is several times stronger. Now that he is performing a low-level ninjutsu like fire style, great fireball technique, of course he will not be stingy with his chakra. He directly opened up his chakra to the maximum and maximized the power of the ninjutsu. Suddenly, a huge fireball rolled forward with flames and hot air waves that burned everything. It blocked all the kunai and shuriken at once. However, at this moment, behind Qianye, another Itachi appeared silently. He held a samurai sword in his hand and slashed at Qianye fiercely. Qianye's Sharingan was very sharp. Sensing the impending danger, he quickly glanced to the side and saw Itachi slashing down with a samurai sword, the clone. Just when he threw out countless kunai and shurikens as if they were free, he actually had the spare time to set up such a clone. Uchiha Itachi is really amazing. He lives up to the name of a genius ninja. Facing Itachi's carefully arranged sword, Qianye wanted to dodge, but it was too late. The sword chopped down fiercely and hit Qianye's chest. However, the scene of blood spurting out did not appear. Qianye, who was stabbed, slowly disappeared with a half-smile on his face. It turned out, it was also a clone. And this clone did not show any trace even under Uchiha Itachi's Sharingan. In the darkness, a kunai was silently pressed against the back of Uchiha Itachi. Itachi, you are careless. It was Qianye's voice. Long before Uchiha Itachi came in, he had already used the wood clone technique of wood release to create a clone. The clone created by the wood clone is different from the ordinary shadow clone. In short, it is more advanced. In addition to the characteristics of ordinary shadow clones, there is also a very rare point. It is almost the same similarity with the original body. This can deceive Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan and lead to the current situation. The kunai was pressed against Itachi's back, and with a slight force, the famous genius ninja would die on the spot. However, Uchiha Itachi did not panic at all, and still maintained absolute calm. He said lightly, "Really? Do you really see the world in front of you clearly?" As his voice fell, everything around him changed significantly. Uchiha Itachi, who was blocked by a kunai, disappeared. even the kunai in his hand disappeared. Qianye subconsciously raised his head. He saw a pair of blood-red Mangekyo Sharingan looking at him under the desolate moonlight. Illusion. It's an illusion. From the moment Uchiha Itachi walked into the house, Qianye had fallen into Uchiha Itachi's illusion. In other words, everything that happened just now, including Qianye's use of would release's wooden clone to defeat Uchiha Itachi, were just illusions. It didn't happen in reality at all. Qianye's face became a little ugly. All that he had carefully planned turned out to be just an illusion in the end. Could it be that even if he reached the level of Kage, he would still not be Uchiha Itachi's opponent? Qianye, it's time for the real you to come out. Itachi looked at Qianye with an ugly face and said such a confusing sentence. Qianye raised his head with a puzzled look on his face, as if he didn't understand why Itachi suddenly said such a sentence. This is still your clone, isn't it? Itachi said lightly. Until hearing this sentence, the embarrassment, confusion and surprise on Qianye's face gradually disappeared, and he returned to his usual calm appearance. Papa. Uchiha Itachi is really amazing. In the darkness behind Qianye, a man clapped his hands and walked out. It was Qianye. As Qianye's true form appeared, the original Qianye gradually turned into a light spot and slowly disappeared. I didn't expect you to go this far. There was a hint of surprise in Uchiha Itachi's voice. For a long time, in the Uchiha clan, or even in the entire Konoha, among the younger generation, only Uchiha Shisui and Hitaki Kakashi could compare with him. I didn't expect that there would be one more now. Moreover, he hid so deeply. Before the real fight, who would have thought that a person who only opened the 3 Magatama Sharingan could actually see through his illusion? Qianye sneered and didn't say much. He is not the only one in the Uchiha family who hides deeply. Everyone knows that Uchiha Itachi is a genius ninja. He has entered the Umbu at a young age and has made many contributions, but who would have thought that a 13-year-old boy has already entered the level of Kage? Moreover, with the blessing of the Mangekyo Sharingan, ordinary Kage-level people would not be his opponents at all. Such talent is too enchanting. Uchiha Itachi paused for a moment, and then said, if it were another time, we might be friends. But now, I have to kill you. His voice was calm, but with unparalleled confidence. Kill me? What a big mouth. You can try it. Qianye refused to give in and fought back. As soon as he finished speaking, he began to quickly form seals with his hands and perform ninjutsu, would release Sea of Trees birth. With the release of the ninjutsu, the ground began to tremble almost instantly, and trees rose from the ground and grew at an astonishing speed. At first they were just seedlings, gradually turning into small trees, and then continued to grow into towering trees with luxuriant branches and leaves. The surrounding environment changed significantly. In an instant, the entire Uchiha clan settlement turned into a forest. Uchiha Itachi's expression hidden under the mask of the Umbu changed, and his blood-red Sharingan became more solemn. This is, would release. It's would release. The would release of the first generation of Hokage. How could it happen? Now on the Uchiha clan members. How? How is this possible? Just when Uchiha Itachi lost consciousness because Qianye suddenly used the bloodline limit would escape that only the first generation Hokage possessed, the trees that just rose from the ground seemed to have life and attacked Uchiha Itachi. I don't know how many vines, trunks, branches and leaves were like agile snakes, winding and entwining. Soon, a huge net was formed in all directions, tightly surrounding Uchiha Itachi. 3-day summer promotion, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 17. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Would release, Advent of the Sea of Trees. Would release, Sea of Trees. One of the most common ninjutsu in would release, using one's own chakra as the source of life, a forest is created in an instant, and all attacks and defenses in the forest are under the control of the caster. It is very similar to another ninjutsu of would release, Sea of Trees. The difference lies in the scope of the forest and the consumption of chakra. With Qianye's current chakra, it is not impossible to perform would release, Sea of Trees, but considering that this ninjutsu is powerful, it is not a surefire move. Moreover, even a surefire move may not be able to do anything to Uchiha Itachi. considering the consumption of the subsequent battle, Qianye decisively chose the ninjutsu of wood release, sea of trees, facing the vines and branches that were blocking from all directions. Uchiha Itachi used the body flicking technique to dodge continuously, however, in wood release. Sea of trees, all the trees are under Qianye's control, this is Qianye's home court, how could he escape with just the body flicking technique? Fire escape great dragon fire technique. Itachi also discovered this quickly, and decisively formed seals with both hands and performed ninjutsu. Suddenly, a fiercely burning flame gushed out from Uchiha Itachi's mouth, forming a huge fire dragon. Under the control of chakra, it roared and hissed, and slammed into the vines that were winding and stretching, boom. With a loud bang. The vines were directly broken and burned. A huge gap appeared. However, Itachi had no time to use the instant body technique. The gap that appeared with great difficulty was filled by the vines and branches that followed. Moreover, the broken part was also recovering at a very amazing speed visible to the naked eye under the power of Qianye's chakra, and continued to surround Uchiha Itachi. Is this the legendary would escape? Uchiha Itachi, who was hidden under the mask of the Umbu, couldn't help but frown slightly. Hundreds of years ago, the legendary ninja of the Uchiha family, who had eternal Uchiha Madara, who always has the Mangekyo Sharingan, fought with the first Hokage of Konoha, Hashirama Senju, who was called the God of Ninja, in the Valley of the End. In the end, he was defeated regretfully. At that time, Hashirama Senju used wood release. I thought that after the first Hokage, there was no more wood release in the world. I didn't expect to encounter it today. Moreover, the power is so amazing. If it were in normal times, he would have a very strong interest in trying out how powerful the legendary wood release is. Can it really suppress the Mangekyo Sharingan? Itachi was always a little unconvinced. As a member of the Uchiha family, the Sharingan is their symbol and pride. How could they be inferior to others? But now, it is the official night of the Uchiha clan Extermination, and he has more things to do, which cannot be delayed. Staying here to experience wood release is not a wise move. Many thoughts flashed through his mind, and Itachi made his own decision. Everything must be based on completing the task. Fire style, great fireball technique. Fire style phoenix claw red. Fire style, great fire dragon technique. Uchiha Itachi made hand seals frequently and released more than a dozen ninjutsu in succession. From a distance, one could see flames all over the sky, illuminating the surroundings like daylight. The scorching flames were boiling and rolling, they were determined to destroy everything. Under the scorching flames, the trees had no time to recover and gradually dried up and burned. In the end, it completely turned into a sea of fire and became a ruin. The ninjutsu was broken. Qianye was not surprised at all. With Uchiha Itachi's ability, he could do this. In addition, he was very satisfied with his newly acquired wood release ability. The bloodline of the God of Ninja is indeed extraordinary, especially with the blessing of the Otsutsuki physique. The power of wood release is brought into play to the maximum extent. This is very important. The reason why the wood release of Hashirama Senju, who is called the God of Ninja, is so strong is largely because of his sage physique. The amount of chakra is astonishingly large, which allows him to use wood release unscrupulously and bring out his true power. Taiga, who also has the bloodline of wood release, is just an ordinary physique. Naturally, he can't bring out the true power of wood release, and in terms of physical fitness alone, Qianye's Otsutsuki physique is still better than Senju Hashirama's sage physique. It's just that the realm of use is not as good. Therefore, Qianye's wood release is not as good as the first-generation Hokage, Senju Hashirama, but he was able to fight the genius ninja Uchiha Itachi for so long, and he fought back and forth, in so many simulations before it is simply unimaginable. In addition, Qianye noticed that Uchiha Itachi did not use his Mangekyo Sharingan ninjutsu Tsukuyomi this time. Is it because he is aware of his strength, so he is more cautious? It is true that Tsukuyomi is powerful, but once it fails to be used, the backlash is also fatal. A slight mistake will change the outcome of this battle. Unless it is 90% sure, I am afraid Itachi will not easily use his Mangekyo ninjutsu. Itachi was breathing heavily, his expression was a little solemn. Releasing more than a dozen ninjutsu in succession is a considerable consumption even for him who has reached the level of Kage. He actually has wood release. Qianye's strength makes him a little unpredictable. There is no more contempt in his heart, and he really treats him as an opponent of the same level. Swish, swish, swish. Shurikens and kunai were thrown out from Itachi's hands again as if they were free wood-style wooden wall. Qianye formed seals with both hands and performed ninjutsu. Instantly, rows of wooden pillars rose from the ground, gradually bending to form an arch wall, protecting Qianye behind him. Bang bang bang. With the sound of shurikens and kunai piercing the arch wall, Itachi's attack was completely blocked. However, at the moment when Qianye put away the wooden wall, behind Qianye, another Itachi appeared out of thin air. He held a shuriken in his hand and shot it directly at Qianye's back. However, Qianye seemed to have expected all this. He didn't even turn his head and blocked the kunai in his hand one by one. He had seen such tricks in the previous illusion. How could he be fooled again? No. Suddenly, Qianye felt a very strong sense of crisis. This is not an ordinary shuriken, this is the windmill of the Sharingan, the third sword. On the surface, what Qianye blocked with the kunai was just a bait, the real attack was the hidden other sword. Qianye hurriedly dodged with the instant body technique. Fortunately, he dodged in time, otherwise even if he had the physique of the Otsutsuki, with extremely strong self-healing and endurance, the consequences would be unimaginable. Uchiha Itachi, in addition to the Mangekyo Sharingan, he has the strength of the Kage level. At the same time, he also has a mind that ordinary people don't have. How terrible such a person is. 3 days summer promotion, charge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 18. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A 13-year-old shadow-level warrior is so terrifying. Fire style, great fireball technique. Qianye and Uchiha Itachi formed hand seals at the same time and released ninjutsu. 2 streams of scorching flames gushed out, forming 2 huge fireballs that rolled and collided with each other. The sky was full of flames, and even from a distance, one could still feel the scorching air waves. Then, Uchiha Itachi jumped up and retreated violently. While retreating, he began to form hand seals and release ninjutsu. Qianye also took out the shuriken, ready to go. However, at this moment, behind Itachi, a charred and dry section of the tree trunk suddenly seemed to come alive. It bent and spread and wrapped around Itachi's back. Itachi seemed not to notice it at all and continued to form hand seals. Soon, the dry tree trunk and branches were about to touch Itachi's body. Itachi's ninjutsu was also ready. Fire-style great flame ball. A stream of scorching flames gushed out of Itachi's mouth and rolled forward at an extremely exaggerated speed, gradually forming a huge fireball and heading towards Qianye. At this moment, the dry tree trunk also pierced Itachi's body. Wow! No blood spurted out, and it still turned into a large group of crows and dispersed. Clone. Qianye squinted his eyes. Uchiha Itachi. Interesting. He first showed the shuriken to divert Itachi's attention, but in fact he secretly performed ninjutsu and attacked Itachi from behind. The shuriken was virtual, and the dry tree trunk behind was real. Itachi was no less than that. It seemed unprepared, but it had already replaced its original body with a clone without anyone noticing, and successfully performed ninjutsu. Tsk. He is indeed a genius ninja of Konoha, a filial son of the Uchiha family. Wood style, tree world wall. Facing the huge fireball rolling over, Qianye immediately formed a seal and released a ninjutsu. On the ground in front of him, a shield made of thick trees suddenly rose from the ground and blocked Qianye behind him. Almost at the same time, the huge rolling fireball was approaching Qianye. Boom! The fireball exploded, setting off a scorching air wave. The power was so strong that the soil, flying stones, countless dry branches and leaves, and gray smoke mixed with the soil were instantly rolled up and flew in the air. The sky turned gray and the naked eye could not see the situation inside. In front of Qianye, the huge, seemingly indestructible shield showed signs of charring and cracking, but it was blocked after all. However, Qianye did not relax his vigilance at all. The ninjutsu just now was just performed by a clone of Itachi. Itachi's real body was still hiding in the dark, waiting for the opportunity, always ready for a fatal blow. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the gray smoke, there were bursts of barely audible sounds of breaking through the air. However, under the almost perverted keen insight of the Sharingan, traces were still revealed. 3 shuriken were hidden in the darkness, shooting towards Qianye. Qianye first dodged in an instant, and then threw the shuriken in his hand in the direction of the shooting, but there was no movement, there was not even the sound of hitting the tree trunk, or falling. Deathly silence. Uchiha Itachi was still hiding in the darkness, without showing any traces. Not long after, in a dark place, another kunai with a detonating tag was shot out, then came a series of ninjutsu such as fire escape. Although these could not cause any substantial damage to Qianye, they also put Qianye in a passive position. The enemy is in the dark and I am in the light, I can't find where the people are, so what can I use to fight? Would release Tree World Birth. Qianye released this ninjutsu again. Since Uchiha Itachi had been hiding in the dark, he might as well use the same trick again. Turn the surroundings into a forest, and everything in the forest was completely under his control. Qianye wanted to see where Itachi could hide this time. Trees rose from the ground, gradually grew bigger, and became lush. In an instant, the entire Uchiha clan settlement became a forest. Everything inside could not escape his perception, including Uchiha Itachi, who had been hiding in the dark and refused to show his head. At the same time, there were many people watching on the sidelines, who did not take action. This was not beyond Qianye's expectations. His battle with Uchiha Itachi caused such a big commotion that even the entire Uchiha clan settlement became a forest. How could they not be discovered? As for those people hiding in the dark, they are nothing more than Danzo's root organization and the masked man Uchiha Obito, who pretends to be Uchiha Madara. For Danzo, he doesn't want to keep any member of the Uchiha clan. What's more, the Uchiha clan actually possesses the wood release, a bloodline limit that can only be mastered by the first generation of Hokage, and can exert such power. They must not be kept. And there is Uchiha Itachi, a 13-year-old Kage-level strongman. Such a talent is really terrifying. If he is given time to grow, the future is unimaginable. Now seeing the battle between Qianye and Itachi, of course he will not rush to take action. Let Qianye and Itachi fight, and both will suffer. Wouldn't it be a better choice for him to just sit back and reap the benefits? As for the masked man Uchiha Obito, for him, Itachi is very strong and can become an important part of his future plans. However, Itachi gives people the feeling that he is too unfathomable. Even if he still has a truly invincible trump card in his hand, he still wants to see the true strength of Uchiha Itachi, the super genius ninja of the Uchiha clan. In addition, Qianye's performance also aroused his interest. Now his organization is short of people. If he can get Qianye's help, it will undoubtedly be a great help to him. However, considering the existence of Danzo and the root organization next to him, it is obvious that they will not sit idly by and watch him take away Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Qianye at the same time. What a pity. Qianye didn't need to think about these and guessed them almost exactly. As a time traveler, he understood the interests of his own side very clearly. Speaking of cooperation, in fact, they are just using each other. This is why the current situation of neither helping the other has emerged. However, it seems that neither of them is helping each other. For Qianye, the ending has long been doomed. Even if he can defeat Uchiha Itachi, he will definitely not be able to escape from Uchiha Obito and Danzo, two Kage-level powerhouses. This simulation will not succeed after all. However, for Qianye now, all he wants is to be able to continue fighting with Itachi. Having just acquired the power of wood release and Kage-level, he needs to hone himself and improve his strength in battle after battle. As for what happens after that, anyway, it's in the simulation. Qianye doesn't care at all. He just wants to fight with all his strength. After the release of the ninjutsu would release Tree World Descent, Uchiha Itachi had nowhere to hide and appeared in Qianye's sight. 3-day summer promotion. Recharge 100 to get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 19. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although the simulation failed, but I opened the Mangekyo Sharingan. This wave is worth it. After the two looked at each other for a moment, they instantly collided with kunai in their hands. This time, it was a battle of physical skills. Qianye has the physique of an Otsutsuki, and his agility, strength, and speed are far superior to ordinary people. Uchiha Itachi, as a famous genius ninja of Konoha, is also proficient in this. The two have been unable to determine the winner in several collisions. Fire Style Phoenix Fire Technique. Fire Style Great Dragon Fire Technique. Fire Style, Great Flame Ball. The physical duel was brief. According to previous intelligence, Qianye was good at physical skills, and Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, was defeated by Qianye's physical skills. Itachi certainly wouldn't want to fight to the death in physical skills, which Qianye was better at. The same was true for Qianye. The confrontation of physical skills meant that the distance between the two was too close. He was always facing the threat of Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan Tsukimi, although his pupil power increased greatly in the confrontations, and he was much stronger than before, until now. It was just an ordinary 3 Magatama Sharingan. In any case, it was not as good as Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan, which was a qualitative difference. Therefore, in the confrontation of pupil power, Qianye would inevitably fall into a disadvantage, and he was unwilling to take this risk, especially after possessing wood release. Qianye was no longer inferior to Uchiha Itachi in the confrontation of ninjutsu, so he was even more unwilling to do so. So, almost by coincidence, both of them chose a relatively safer way to duel. The flames lit up the sky, scorching the surrounding area. This battle between real Kage-level masters was so fierce that it was shocking. If Konoha village was not still some distance away from the settlement of the Uchiha clan, and there was a barrier set up by several masters, it would have been affected to a great extent. The masked man, Danzo, and the ninjas of the root organization who were hiding in the dark were all shocked. The 2 ninjas who were fighting fiercely. They were both children of the Uchiha clan. One was 13 years old, the other was 15 years old. It was unimaginable that they had grown to this level. However, by now, they had seen almost everything they should and wanted to see. The sky gradually brightened. If the things here were not resolved for a long time, it would inevitably be known to the people in Konoha village. That would be difficult to explain. After all, the Uchiha clan was a hero in the founding of Konoha. They also had a good status in Konoha. On the night of the Uchiha clan extermination, this kind of mission was somewhat shady. Once the news spreads, who knows what other clans will think, which will be detrimental to the cohesion and unity of Konoha. It's time to solve the problem here. So, when Qianye and Itachi were fighting fiercely, Danzo led the ninjas of the root organization to join the battle. This simulation failed. Qianye exited the simulation and returned to real life. In his heart, he was still thinking about the extremely fierce battle just now. If it was only Uchiha Itachi, Qianye was confident that he would not lose even if it was difficult to win. But after Danzo led the ninjas of the root organization to appear, the balance of victory inevitably tilted. Those ninjas of the root organization were not easy to deal with. Their individual combat power may not be strong, but each of them has his own strengths. Otherwise, they would not be recruited by Danzo to his own command. When they fight in groups, cooperate with each other, and make up for their weaknesses, they will often exert extraordinary power. In addition, there is Danzo, a real shadow-level strongman. Their joining is enough to completely change the situation. Even if Qianye has would escape and a large Tsutsuki physique, he can't get rid of the end of being outnumbered and dying of exhaustion. However, such an ending did not make Qianye feel frustrated or afraid at all. On the contrary, he felt only a strong excitement. This was his first time to fight a Kage-level warrior. He looked up at the clock on the wall. 2:25, 6 hours had passed. It turned out that so much time had passed. He had been fighting in the simulation without noticing. Time had passed so quickly. According to the current time, more than half of the simulation time had passed. In less than 10 hours, the system would enter a new cooling period again. He didn't have much time left. In particular, this was an opportunity to fight a Kage-level warrior. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It would bring great improvement to Qianye, and it was really precious. So, Qianye solidified the golden ability, would release, and then started another simulation. In the next few simulations, Qianye used different methods and different ninjutsu to fight Uchiha Itachi. In this process, Qianye's use of wood release and Otsutsuki's physique was also gradually enhanced and familiar. But the final result was not much different from before. As Qianye became more familiar with Uchiha Itachi's ninjutsu and moves, he was able to gain a slight advantage, but it was still a bit difficult to really win. Uchiha Itachi was not an opponent that could be easily defeated. Later, Danzo and the ninjas of the root organization rushed forward. Qianye was outnumbered and died of exhaustion. Exiting the simulation. Soon, the simulation time ended and the system entered the cooling state. Qianye half closed his eyes, still immersed in the simulation just now, his mind was constantly recalling the experience of fighting with Uchiha Itachi again and again. Among them, some were done well, and some still needed to be changed. Those scenes flashed by little, finally, they all returned to silence. Qianye suddenly opened his eyes, a pair of eyes flashed with a blood-red light, the three Magatama inside changed little by little, and finally connected to each other, becoming a blade-like shape, Mangekyo Sharingan. In a short moment, Qianye felt that his pupil power continued to rise at a very exaggerated rate. After a while, it gradually slowed down and stopped. He re-examined himself. Now his pupil power is several times stronger than before with 3 Magatama. Is this the Mangekyo Sharingan? I didn't expect it to be activated under such circumstances. Qianye's mouth curled up slightly with a hint of excitement. This is rarely seen in him who is known for his calmness and low-key. Rumor has it that the Mangekyo Sharingan can only be awakened after experiencing the pain of losing a loved one, but it seems that this is not entirely true. Qianye experienced a night of simulation and several desperate battles. During this time, Otsutsuki's physique gradually strengthened, and his pupil power also slowly increased. Finally, after the simulation ended, he broke through that barrier. Evolved from the 3 Magatama Sharingan to the level of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Chapter 20. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Good boy, are you pretending to be Uchiha Madara? The Sharingan's transformation from the 3 Magatama state to the Mangekyo state is not just an enhancement of pupil power. It also represents a surge in overall strength. Chakra has increased dramatically, and a series of abilities such as perception and speed have become more acute. In addition, there is also an exclusive Sharingan ninjutsu, Izanagi. This is the ultimate ninjutsu that was born from the 6 Paths Sage's ninjutsu, creation of all things, and can change reality. Within the duration of this ninjutsu, no matter what damage the caster receives, even death can be easily restored to its original state. It can be said to be abnormal, however, the price paid to cast this ninjutsu is also very huge, that is, the eye using Izanagi will become permanently blind. However, when Izanagi appears as Qianye's exclusive Sharingan ninjutsu, casting this ninjutsu will not cause permanent blindness, but will only cause loss of pupil power like ordinary Sharingan ninjutsu. Through this simulation, Qianye has the golden ability of wood release, and has also opened the Mangekyo Sharingan. With his current strength, he surpassed the ordinary Kage-level strongmen, and even Uchiha Itachi would not be his opponent. The red light from the Mangekyo Sharingan slowly weakened, and finally disappeared completely, returning to its usual appearance. Qianye made a little preparation and went to the Konoha guard. He had 2 days of rest when he went out to complete the mission before, 1 day for practicing ninjutsu and 1 day for simulation. Now it is time to take a new mission. Although Qianye now has power above the Kage level, there are not many people in the entire Uchiha clan, or even the entire Konoha who are stronger than him. But before the night of genocide comes, he can't be too ostentatious, making things too troublesome and changing the trajectory that should be. This is asking for trouble. The main task of the Konoha Police Department is to be responsible for the security and stability of the entire Konoha village. However, now that the relationship between Konoha village and the Uchiha clan has become increasingly tense, this main task has become unworthy of its name. Konoha does not trust the Uchiha clan enough. Of course, the Uchiha clan will not work hard for Konoha. Qianye, it's Qianye who is here. Was it really him who defeated Raiga Kuriko, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen? Qianye had just walked to the front door of the police department when he heard the people around him pointing and talking, and the look in their eyes was a little different from usual. This had never happened before. Qianye has always been calm, low-key and even a little lonely. He rarely takes the initiative to contact people and has no friends, and other people treat Qianye as a transparent person. But this time, Uchiha Qianye killed Kuroki Raiga, one of the famous 7 ninja swordsmen in the Hidden Mist village. This matter was almost known to everyone in Konoha village. How could the Uchiha clan not know? However, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, the famous Kuroki Raiga, really lost to this Uchiha Qianye who has always been a loner. There is still a question mark in their hearts. Is Kuroki Raiga of the 7 ninja swordsmen too unworthy of his reputation, or is it that Uchiha Qianye, who has always been unknown in the Uchiha clan, has become so strong? Qianye ignored the eyes of these people. For him, it doesn't matter what others think of him. He doesn't care at all. What's more, it won't take long for the Uchiha clan extermination night to arrive. On the night of the extermination, all these people will die. Why should he care about the eyes of some dead people? Qianye walked into the Konoha guard department and handed over the shift. Since there were no other special tasks, Qianye handed over the shift as usual, patrolled the streets, and completed the task. When he handed over the shift again, it was already dark. Qianye went home alone. As he walked, he suddenly felt something was wrong. It was like being stared at, as if a thorn was on his back, and he felt uncomfortable all over. If it was before, maybe he wouldn't have such a strong perception, but now that he has opened the Mangekyo Sharingan, his perception ability has reached a very exaggerated level. Even a little bit of abnormality can't escape his keen perception. However, he didn't show it immediately, but changed his original direction and walked to a more remote place. At this time, the sky was dark, people were already at home. This kind of place is always very desolate and few people would come to it, let alone show up. Qianye turned around and stared at a place in the endless darkness. Have you been discovered? Such a keen perception. In the darkness, a figure slowly walked out. He was wearing a black robe and a samurai sword at his waist. He wore an orange mask with black stripes on his face, revealing only one eye. In the Uchiha clan, you are the second one to discover me. The masked man said lightly. Even if he was discovered, there was no surprise. Qianye looked calm, looking at the masked man in front of him without saying a word. He was the second one, so who was the first one? Uchiha Itachi. Qianye couldn't help but think of this name in his mind. If there is anyone else in the Uchiha clan who can have such a keen perception, in addition to Uchiha Itachi, there should be no one else. These thoughts flashed through his mind, and he didn't think about it anymore, because it was meaningless. The most important thing now was to do the things in front of him. The reason why Qianye brought people here was that he didn't want to alarm the people of Uchiha and Konoha, so as not to cause any unnecessary trouble. As for the threat, he has the physique of Otsutsuki, would release and Mangekyo Sharingan at the same time, and he is not afraid of anyone at all now. I am Uchiha, Madara. The masked man said his identity in a low voice with a hint of pressure. At the same time, the eye exposed through the mask also glowed blood red in an instant. Inside, 3 Magatama were connected to each other, forming a blade-like shape, Mangekyo Sharingan. If ordinary people heard the magical name Uchiha Madara, and saw this rare Mangekyo Sharingan that only existed in the history of the Uchiha clan, they would inevitably be surprised and confused. However, Qianye came from the future, and he knew very well whether the person in front of him was Uchiha Madara. This was not the case. He was not even slightly moved or surprised. Qianye's performance also surprised the masked man. He thought of the various expressions Qianye would show when he heard this name and saw the Mangekyo Sharingan, but among them, there was definitely no such calm one. It was really unexpected. It's getting more and more interesting. Well, this place is secluded and no one is around. Let's try here to see how this guy who can kill Black Hole Raiga works. 3-day summer promotion, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now, activity time, August 13th to August 15th.